Howdy, howdy ho. You know, honestly, I still can't get over the name, which doesn't even roll off the tongue smoothly. Xbox Series X. I mean, you know this name went through entire teams and focus groups. I feel like what we don't know is that the other choices presented were somehow, and think about this for a second, worse. Microsoft has been embracing the minimalist design that started with the One S and led to what I felt was the best looking console they ever made, the One X. The Series X continues the minimalist design to mostly good effect, with the issue being the vent at the top. Or quite simply, circles on a square are just not aesthetically competent, as people already know from looking at the Series S. They really missed an opportunity to use angled back slats and then have the support beams of the vent form an X. And then, like I said in my unboxing, they could have put a simple green LED in there that either breathes, turns on, or can be turned off by the user entirely. But other than the trypophobia vent, this is a very clean and compact design. It's also user-friendly and logical. I've already installed the 1TB expansion card, which simply slots in the back. This is a very well thought out storage expansion setup, and 2 TB is more than enough that if you reach the limit, there are legitimately old games you can uninstall. The Series X generation controller, on the other hand, presents a bit of a head scratcher. Here's my Elite controller for reference, and the Xbox One controller I use for my PC, which is a 2nd gen Xbox One controller. You can see these have either a cutout or a groove to accent the Xbox button at the top. The series controllers forego any sort of accent, and this gives the controller a rounded, bulbous, toy-like shape. That's a step backward aesthetically speaking. But to make matters worse, the D-pad looks like an improvement, but it clicks so loudly that it makes it feel cheap. I genuinely do not need to hear clicks and clacks every time I touch the D-pad. Fortunately, it does seem to last a bit longer than my Xbox One controllers by about 3 to 4 hours. Lastly, I can't seem to qualify it, but the series controller does seem to have a better on-screen response time than my 1st gen Elite. I tested it back and forth for hours, but I can't properly capture it, and yet they had to have done something in the hardware that tightens up the response time. The effect is lessened or non-existent against the 2nd gen Xbox One controller, which makes me feel kinda stupid for sticking to my Elite so religiously. It's the exact same UI as the Xbox One. They made some minor updates to it right at release, such as changing the trophy icon to a controller icon and adding full DTSX support, but the easiest way to sum this up is if you hate the Xbox One UI, you're screwed. If you love the Xbox One UI, you're in luck. Furthermore, just like the PS5, with extra CPU power and an SSD, the UI itself is rather fast to navigate. Some things still need improvement. For example, if you hit B after viewing a recent capture full screen, it knocks you out of the menu entirely. To preface, it's got an 8-core 16-thread AMD CPU clocking at 3.8 GHz, but that drops to 3.66 GHz when simultaneous multi-threading is used, which would be pretty much any Series XS focused AAA game. There's no reason for a big game developer to limit available CPU power just to get higher clock speeds. Thus, this drop in CPU clock speed might be attributed to why the PS5 can beat the Series X in some areas in frames per second. This not only shrinks the CPU clock speed gap, but the PS5's custom storage solution also further reduces CPU load. I also didn't experience anything other than fast load times akin to a gaming PC with an SSD. So while the Velocity architecture reads good, it really is just gaming PC grade storage in a console. Not that it's a bad thing, but they seem to have created marketing around it that isn't quite justified when PC gamers can accurately say, we've had that for a while now. The 12 teraflop GPU, at least so far, has not manifested in any advantageous way, and last gen dialed up to 11 Gears 5 DLC doesn't quite cut the mustard, though its literally buttery smooth frame rate is quite a treat for the visuals it pulls off. The Series X console itself is designed well and seems to be fully baked. What's missing is anything to show it off with. Without strong exclusives to really bring all the marketing points home, it doesn't quite differentiate itself from its direct competitor, the PS5. Add to that some areas where the PS5 actually beats it in frame rate and or load times, and the Xbox's additional GPU power and well thought out storage solution start to ring a little hollow. The controller being more toy-like in appearance and sound is a bit of a balancing act with its extended battery life and improved response times. In summary, great console, user-friendly, without anything to show for it. Microsoft really needs to get those exclusives out pronto. See you next time on the Gaming 5.